Good morning and welcome. We would ask that folks who are with us today, if you're both willing and able to stand for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be delivered by Pastor Catherine Nellie Burton of Grace Presbyterian Church. Welcome, Pastor.
The prayer today begins with a prayer from John Calvin, one of the reformers of the Christian church. Let us pray. Save us, Lord, from being self-centered in our prayers, and teach us to remember to pray for others. May we be so caught up in love for those for whom we pray that we may feel their needs as keenly as our own, and pray for them with imagination, sensitivity, and knowledge. We lift up today the lifeguards at the city pools, EMS workers, our city councilors, the administrative support staff of the city, and all who work to make Wichita a better place. We pray this in your name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor. Madam Clerk.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on June 7th, 2022.
Has every member had a chance to review the minutes, and if so, is there any discussion on the minutes? If there is no discussion on the minutes, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as they are presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Proclamation, Juneteenth.
Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas, Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. And whereas, on June 19, 1865, Union soldiers led by Major General Gordon Granger landed in Galveston, Texas, with news that the war had ended and that enslaved were now free. This was 2.5 years after President Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which had become official on January 1st, 1863. And whereas Wichita thrives on its vibrant cultural heritage, and African Americans represent a vital part of our diverse ethnic and social community, and acknowledges the role African Americans from Wichita have played in leading impactful civil rights efforts in Kansas and in this nation. And whereas June 19, 2022 is a day to celebrate the news of the African Americans were free from slavery and stand in solidarity with African Americans throughout this country still fighting for equality and all these years later. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim June 19, 2022 as Juneteenth in the City of Wichita, and urge all citizens to wholeheartedly recognize this celebration and learn more about the struggles and triumphs of African Americans in 2022. Madam Clerk.
Public agenda. Jane Burns, can we beat the 5-year tipping point to avert major climate change?
My name is Jane Burns. I live in District 1 in Wichita. Once again, I want to thank you so much for agreeing to a sustainability board last year. Thanks to those of you who've appointed members to that board who get it, that our earth is a finite resource and deserves Wichita's action. The Sustainability Board is revving up, but slowly. Can we beat the 5-year tipping point to avert major climate change? Depends. It's your budget time. At your budget retreat, I laid at your place the 50 most actionable pages of the very long Environmental Finance Center Wichita Sustainability Report that our city manager commissioned more than a year ago. That report said it was designed to be used as a tool for the city of Wichita to learn, plan, problem solve, make decisions, and achieve progress towards sustainability goals. Its 67 initiatives are scored for benefits for the pillars of the economy, the environment, and society, people. It specifies programs, projects, policies, and partnerships that are quick to implement with a cost estimate of $1.72 to $1.95 million. I heard last night at the Bike Ped Advisory Board meeting that there is a buzz among city staff for sustainability, but until there's funding for sustainability, we'll miss our 5-year window. Let me mention just a few of the WSU EFC's time-sensitive recommendations. Trees, pages 32 and 54. Here's my booklet of these 50 pages. Trees are on pages 32 and 54. Trees planted and nurtured now can mitigate urban heat islands. Trees have the EFC's recommendation of a supportive partnership with the new Canopy ICT to vigorously begin street trees that shade our concrete driveways, streets, and parking lots, both city-owned and private. The EFC's cost estimate, $15,000 to begin. So that's one. Trees. Active transportation, pages 49 and 50. The EFC report points out that walking and bicycling for transportation and recreation can keep us healthy, except, of course, we can't be healthy unless we're safe. Walking and biking and scootering and wheelchairs and quality of life needs safety against much, much larger and more deadly vehicles. Safe routes to school, which can enable healthy children, healthy independent children, page 20 of the EFC report. Reliable bus service to get folks without cars to groceries and churches, it's in the EFC report. Reliable bus service, it's there. The EFC's cost estimate for preliminary, quick to achieve results, $60,000. Air pollution from current transportation, it's there too. Waste management, page 45, costs $30,000. And community engagement, pages 26 to 28 and page 48, cost $25,000. So here's my ask today. The $14 million that Wichita's laying out on a few more miles of Kellogg could brightly paint a whole bunch of bike lanes, mitigate heat islands, clean air and streets and parks, and far, far more. In fact, just a tiny chunk of these Kellogg millions could fund the entire EFC sustainability report. It's time now for acknowledgement, respect, and funding to begin these adjustments. City council members, please rebudget to begin Wichita's sustainability future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. We appreciate your input. Bob, just for clarification, is it possible to redirect funds dedicated to Kellogg into something like this? Or will we have to go somewhere, look somewhere else?
Good question. I mean, ultimately, the council can direct funds as it sees fit. you have a capital project with contributions from the state, significant contribution from the state and from other jurisdictions, and over in Butler County, if I remember, on that project. And you also don't want, I wouldn't think you'd want to move funds from a capital project to operations, right? So some of the things that Jane outlined in terms of recommendations are more operating costs. Some are capital. I think the maybe more pertinent question is, can we sufficiently budget for implementation of recommendations as they come to you from the Sustainability Integration Board? And I think that's what we want to do, is make sure that we provide some cushion so that we can start the implementation of their work. I don't think we want to wait a year after they make recommendations to implement some of what they have.
Okay. Well, thank you. And I do want to thank Jane, not just for her comments, but also for pointing out that this is the budget time, the budget cycle, and we are looking for input on what the priorities should be moving forward for the city. So just in addition to the comments, I think about the priorities that Jane has brought forward for folks who are watching, who have things that are on their list of priorities. Please, this is a time to have those discussions now as we set forth what that next fiscal year is going to look like. So thank you for that. Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items 1 through 15.
All right, consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Councilmember Ballard.
I'd like to pull item number 8.
Item number 8 will be pulled. Further discussion on the consent agenda. If there's no further discussion, then I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented with the exception of item 8. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. We are back on item 8 of the consent agenda. The chair recognizes Councilmember Ballard.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a problem with this. I actually think it's great that they are looking into burying, that Evergy is looking into burying some of the lines. I think Councilmember Johnson and I are both in discussions with projects in our own districts, and I was just curious if staff could talk about what was different about this specific item as opposed to the projects that we're working on in District 1 and 6.
And if staff could just highlight what the item is for folks watching, that would be helpful.
Sure. I don't think he likes his title, but our city engineer, Gary Jansen, has become our in-house expert on Evergy transmission lines. So I'm going to ask him to make some comments regarding this item and the items that Councilmember Ballard referenced.
Welcome.
Good morning, Mayor and Council members. Gary Jansen, City Engineer, Public Works Engineering, I should say. So this line in particular, and there's, I was able to get some more particulars to share with you. This line in particular is distribution line. So they're having issues serving growth in the northeast part of the community. They need an additional circuit. And so this is distribution line compared to what we were talking about currently with you and Councilmember Johnson, which is transmission line, the bigger facilities. Even though the agenda item says they're going to go underground between Woodlawn and Rock, 75% of this project is actually overhead. They've only got a small portion that's going underground, and that's where they don't have the space to stay overhead. They've got some issues at their substation where they come out of the substation that they've got to go underground, and then at 37th and Rock, due to some limited space there, they've got to go underground. So the majority of this is still overhead on this project. But the parts that are going underground are distribution line. All new development in this community, they go underground also at that time. We've seen other situations where they will go underground, but their first goal is to still be overhead with distribution and transmission. So what we've been talking about with Midtown and in District 1 also, again, is focused on transmission, the larger facilities, the larger lines, and they're a lot more challenged to bury those primarily because of space and cost.
Thank you.
Further questions for staff? See none. Thank you. Further discussion on this item in the public? See none. We'll bring discussion back to the bench. Further discussion on this item? If there is no further discussion, then I'll make the motion to accept item 8 and staff's recommendation for item 8 on consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Have received 7 yea votes. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Board of Bids and Contracts dated June 13th, 2022.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. I'm Josh Lauber, Department of Finance. So the Board of Bids recommendations for June 14th, 2022 has as follows. First item for engineering is the water distribution system, stormwater drain, sanitary sewer paving to serve the Sycamore Pond addition for NOAC Construction Company Incorporated for an aggregate bid total of $523,499.60, negotiating Group 1 and 2 to the engineer's estimate. 2022 sidewalk maintenance for PPJ Construction Incorporated for an amount to the engineer's estimate of $935,500. Water distribution system to serve Cooper Creek Addition for Meese Construction Company in the amount of $39,647.50, negotiated to the engineer's estimate. Equus Wellfield Spurline Replacements Phase 3 for Donlinger and Sons Construction Company Incorporated for an aggregate bid total of $1,892,928, including the base bid plus Group A add alternate for M16. Water distribution system sanitary sewer improvements to serve Town Park 8th Edition for Meese Construction Incorporated for an aggregate bid total of $113,005, with Group 2 negotiated to the engineer's estimate. For purchasing, we have the refurbished elevators at City Hall deferred to June 27th, 2022. This is how to become a vendor with the City of Wichita. These are our open requests for proposals, and I recommend to approve the bid awards as recommended.
Excellent, thank you. Is there questions for staff? See none, thank you. Is there input from the public? And this is about the approval of well, I will mention it for everyone watching. This is the Board of Bids and Contracts. This is the Board of Bids and Contracts approval, so welcome.
Okay. My name is Sybil Strum. I reside at 326 North Walnut. Who's going to pay for this? Is the taxpayer going to pay for it? Let me bring up the scandal. We ended up buying bottles of water because the water department did a boo-boo again. How many times are we going to have to pay for their problems? I mean, I can't pay no more. The taxpayers are paying already. We are paying salaries. We're paying for businesses to come in. We're paying for the businesses to go out. We need you to start stepping up to the plate. I don't want to pay no more on my water bill. It's not my fault that the water company should have called 811 before they did. That's a commercial. And I'm just tired of taxpayers paying. We're already in a recession. It's getting hard. You know, that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Further input from the public? See none. We'll bring discussion back to the bench. Further discussion? See none. If there's no further discussion, then I will make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to receive and file the report, approve the contracts, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Termination of K96 Star Bond Community Improvement District.
Morning, Mayor, Council.
Good
Kathleen
morning.
Sexton, your interim assistant city manager. I think Mark Elder is online in case we have questions. His big brain can help me answer that. But I am pleased today to bring you this item. This is Some of you may remember some years ago when we built the K-96 and Greenwich interchange, a major project in northeast Wichita to better connect the highway traffic to the retail and entertainment district there on Greenwich Road. 4 funding sources were established at that time to pay for that interchange. One is the STAR bonds in the area. 2 is the CID, Community Improvement District, at the Cabela's area, south of this site we're talking about today. Also the Capital Improvement Plan, or general city revenues. And the 4th one was special assessments levied against the land in this particular STAR bond project area. This is, then we, after those special assessments were put on the property, then we set up the CID to reimburse and pay for those specials. So that was called the K-96 STAR CID, but it's actually a community improvement district within the STAR bond district. That was a 1% sales tax. A lot of businesses out there are helping us by charging that tax to their customers. Just a few off the top of the head are Academy Sports, Duluth Trading, Cavender's, Dave & Buster's. That general area, although there is this map we showed here a second ago that shows the specific areas. Not all retailers out there do charge that, just the ones in the district. So it was set up and started charging in 2015 for a period of 22 years. Happy to report today that with your action today, you could end that tax in just 7 years because it has successfully raised the amount required to pay for that interchange, or it will have by the time we end it. So we've been paying those bills from the CID and also setting aside the excess to continue to pay future bond payments. So that is paying that debt off 15 years early, ending that tax 15 years early. You might say, it's June, Kathy, why are you bringing this to me now if you're not even going to have it implemented till September 30th? Well, it's because we have to give the state notice. The state can only change the sales tax rates once a quarter. So if you approve this today, that allows us to meet our July 1 deadline to the state to get them to stop the tax effective September 30th. So with your approval today, I would recommend this action and stand for any questions.
Questions for staff? Ms. Sexton, I don't mean to throw you on the spot, and I understand that you might not have the, the historical experience here at the city to be able to answer this question, so we might have to punt it to the manager. But when was the last time we paid off a CID like this, this early? Like, because my understanding is this isn't very common, so I don't know if it has happened more recently. It might have just escaped me. So
today is the first day that we have done that. We have terminated early some tax increment districts when the debt obligations were satisfied prior to the expiration date. So that's happened a few times.
So if this passes today, this is the first time in your knowledge that we have retired debt for a CID.
That's my recollection, yes.
You know, Mayor, to expand on that too, it is a CID is a relatively new kind of modern area form of incentives and economic development, but it is pretty awesome to pay off something you set up to last 22 years to be able to do that in 7 years. And just for a little nuts and bolts, we estimate this will save taxpayers about $400,000 per year. So that 1% sales tax reduction in this area, it brings in about $400,000 a year. So that means that people will save that amount on their bills when they buy stuff in this area.
Thank you. Is there further questions for staff? See none. Thank you. We'll open up to public comment. Oh. Good morning.
Celeste Reset, Wichita native. We have several CID districts, and as she was alluding to, this is a relatively new development passed by Topeka to boost development, but it's not the oldest one. We have several older CID districts. Taxpayers, I take a little, not offense, is too strong a word, but taxpayers don't save money when you stop a CID tax. A CID tax is extra, like at the ball stadium. It's an extra 2% tax on everything purchased. So it's not something that you saved us because we're more efficient or whatever. It's just the elimination of an add-on tax. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
Okay, so
Could you
I'm
clarify?
going to move on though real quick. It's an extra tax. It's a surcharge. It's an additional tax. So I'm going to go back to a point that I didn't know was going to be discussed earlier, but actually, when you're spending capital improvement funds, I would say your priorities are wrong. Wichita is actually becoming a deferred maintenance city. And an example brought forward today, using capital improvement funds, your CIP, should actually go into capital maintenance infrastructure. And the number one important thing about a city's infrastructure is clean drinking water. We don't want to have a Flint, Michigan situation. And water is the most important situation or thing a city can offer. And yet last week, during the celebration of the 50th River Festival, there was a water boil advisory in effect for 2 full days. And this was Wichita's second water boil advisory in 8 months. The water infrastructure is suffering from what I've referred to again as deferred maintenance. Clean water has taken a back seat to spending priorities such as the CID on the east side of Wichita. The city built a new ball stadium, gave subsidies for this K96 CID when infrastructure essentials are not being taken care of on a first priority basis. The city of Wichita is on the very last legs of an antiquated water system. The Wichita Eagle reported on a 2017 engineering study which found 100% of the city's raw water pipes were in very poor condition. And this was in 2017.
I'm sorry, Celeste, 1 second.
Yep.
Please, for the folks who are in the audience, please don't interrupt the speakers. They deserve respect and the time for being here. So please don't make comments, clap, or do anything that could be distracting. Clerk, please allow the additional time to be added to the speaker. And to the speaker, I apologize. Please continue.
Thank you. The city's entire water infrastructure is at a, quote, significant risk of failure. Construction of the new water system will not be completed and operational for at least 3 more years. At any time, the current system could fail. There is no fail-safe or backup system to prevent another water boil advisory. The pressure on the city's water plant will be tested again and again as the new system goes online. The current water plant contract was influenced by the friendly relationship the former mayor had with his golfing buddies. The Wichita Eagle reported on that very special relationship and how the contract bidding process was questionable. He's gone, but these problems remain. The latest water boil advisory occurred without any citywide notification, just posts on social media and websites. The city was in the middle of a wonderful celebration, the 50th River Festival. Volunteers and staff had worked long hours to get ready. 1,000 flowers were planted, family-friendly attractions set up, vendors lined up, scaffolding construction, signs erected, green spaces were mowed by Parks and Rec, trash cans dropped off, buttons sold. Countless hours by so many people. And it was a huge success. Visitors were attending from other states. My family was here. Thanks to Admiral, Windwagon, Smith, Barry Schwann, we enjoyed seeing the magnificent Budweiser Clydesdale horses. Family-friendly crowds turned out for live concerts. Willie Nelson was a hit. And then boom, news broke of a water boil advisory. An 80-year-old water filter in the water treatment plant had caused cloudy water with a higher than expected dose of solids discharged into the city's distribution system. No one in Wichita, except those on the east side, where K96 is located, could safely drink the water. The River Festival food vendors couldn't use the water. The Clydesdale horses were advised not to drink the water as it wasn't safe for pets. Hotel guests couldn't use city water. Visit Wichita's new tagline should be, coming to Wichita, don't forget the bottled water. All that hard work putting on the River Festival goes down the drain when the city's water isn't safe. The 2023 budget will be coming out shortly, and you need to shift your focus from development projects and spending for new riverfront, whatever development plans you have in mind, to maintain our infrastructure, our water, our streets, public safety. All of this is so much more important and critical to get people to live in Wichita and move to work in Wichita than having to buy bottled water because our city water isn't safe. I'll end by saying, take care of deferred maintenance. Let's not be the deferred maintenance city. Let's be the proactive, high-quality infrastructure city. And please set up citywide notifications when a water boil advisory occurs. Thank you.
City Manager, does this item, because I agree with the speaker when it comes to ensuring that we invest in water, but I do want, for clarification, this item is not in reference to our water infrastructure, is it?
No, this item is not.
Okay, so I just want to make sure we stay focused on this particular item, although I do agree with the urgency of ensuring that we have clean water. I just want to make sure we narrow down on exactly the topic we're talking about. I understand the deferred maintenance concerns as well, but today we are talking about the CID, that is the K96, and we have another speaker. Welcome back.
My name is Sybil Strum. I reside at 326 North Walnut. I'm urging you to start getting the pipes working. We are tired of buying bottled water. It's very appalling to sit here and say, well, you want us to keep our water clean, but you guys didn't keep the water clean. And why is it when I come up to the podium, you repeat everything, but when other speakers come up to the podium, you act like they know what they're doing? I'm asking you that. Why? It's offensive. I can hear you. I'm not that old. I'm not brittle. Why do you do that? I don't even read a 2-page deal like some of your speakers do. I speak from the heart. Why do you do that, sir? Can you alert why you do that, Mayor Whipple? Can you ask that? Answer that.
Sybil, I respect you, and
no, but you don't.
I'm not sure what you're referring to. I haven't said anything.
If any of these councilmen, you sit there and you repeat the deal twice to me, but when the other speakers come up, you sit there and give them the great treatment. You need to respect me just as much as you respect the other speakers. Now, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about the water. You're talking about the star bonds. I know about this stuff. I've gone to the commission meeting since 1984. Okay, she's right. We have been buying bottled water. It seems like Wichita is the dirtiest city. And my own relatives don't want to come here. And the price of the buttons were outrageous, but that's another thing. So this is what I feel. You need to check yourself out. Check the water company has to start maintaining the pipes, making the water clean, because we are tired of paying. Thank you.
I do want to bring the discussion, and a clarification of the discussion is about the CID district, which is separate than the water district. So if there is further public discussion, please feel free, come forward, talk with us. But again, this is very specific to the CID district and the retirement of the CID. Is there further public discussion on this item? And I want to thank the previous speaker and the speaker before as well. If there's no further discussion from the public, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Bob or Kathy, I I guess I was confused. The first speaker, the math wasn't mathing for me. If we remove a tax, even 1%, that is a savings for someone, right? They're not paying that additional 1%.
Correct. Obviously, you can use different words in the English language to mean different things, but yes, the intent of me saying it that way was that it's tax money that is no longer being charged beginning October 1 with your approval today, and that otherwise, without your vote today, taxpayers would be paying that.
So they'll pay 1% less if this is approved.
Yes, only in this very limited area within this district on the map, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And can you just describe again, I think, for the public who's watching, to really just, I want to make it clear exactly what we're talking about with this form of infrastructure. What did the CID, what did we get for that? What did it pay for?
Fabulous question. You know, the reason we set up community improvement districts, the reason we tax as government is to provide public goods. And in this case, the public good is the interchange, literally the connection from K96 at Greenwich Road to be able to fully enter and exit that highway from the city streets from any direction. It's a full interchange. We did not have that there before. It has improved the traffic efficiency. Obviously, the volumes of traffic there have improved. As you know, it is also, this area is also within a Star Bond district that was focused on creating the Wichita Sports Forum, and that is an attraction for a lot of out-of-town and out-of-state visitors. So to be able to have easy highway access to that attraction for ball tournaments that are held with, you know, thousands of people on a weekend, for example, and then to have these retail stores in that area collect this 1% tax as a way of helping pay for that highway interchange was a huge public investment and public benefit paid for largely by people who visit the community.
And the way the CID works, this was the interchange, and it's the folks who benefit from that interchange that extra tax, the folks who buy goods within that district because the interchange actually allows people to get on and off safely, easily. That money is put back into that infrastructure.
Absolutely, and remember the very first slide, the interchange was paid for by 4 different funding sources. So this is just one of the funding sources. So those visitors and people shopping at these stores are just part of the mix of funding that went into paying for this highway interchange.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Is there further questions or discussion? Councilmember Blubaugh.
Thank you, Mayor. And I guess just since we're having a lot of discussion about canceling a tax, what would happen if we didn't cancel it? Where would the additional revenue go?
Well, we would keep collecting it in that fund and determine, and with your approval later, determine what to use that for and how to use it. But basically, it has to be focused on this payment of these bonds. So
It would just be a taxation without an intent.
it could help in other ways pay for things within this community improvement district, but at this point, we don't see any needs for public investment in anything else here. So our recommendation is to end the tax.
All right, further discussion. And again, we thank you, Ms. Sexton, for the additional clarification and information. Further discussion on this item. Well, I think this sets a wonderful precedent. Very excited that we're able to end this early. And I will relinquish the floor to Vice Mayor Tuttle, as this resides in District 2. But before that, I just wanted to thank staff for working with us and allowing us to really be able to add this tax cut while also getting the asset that we needed. So thank you for that. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. I also want to take the opportunity to thank staff. I also want to say this is a unique opportunity, and during my term on council, this is one of the most exciting motions and votes that I'll be able to make. This is an incredibly vibrant part of our community. Everyone talks about attracting and retaining talent, and many of the amenities that we have are able, it provides the opportunity for people to come for retail, for restaurant, for sports, and was mentioned not just for our own community members, but also from across the region for different athletic events. So it really is just an extremely vibrant part of our community. Also, when we talk about being an exceptionally well-run city, one of the components of that is to grow our economy. And this shows, and to me is a perfect example of how the economic tools that we have on our tool belt with the city of Wichita can help our economy and our community grow. So again, this is just a unique opportunity to celebrate in our community. Very excited, and I will enthusiastically move that the City Council place on first reading the ordinance terminating the K-96 Star Bond Community Development Improvement District and authorize the necessary signatures. Thank you.
I'll second the motion. Clerk will open a roll. Members will cast their vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Petition to renovate building facade at 150 South Washington.
I'm Kathy Sexton, your interim assistant city manager. You also have in your tool bag of economic development incentives a facade improvement program. And this is about the visual aspect of our community, enhancing our aesthetics, but also helping businesses invest in their plant and equipment. So at 150 South Washington, we do have Expert Auto Center. They engaged in a remodel of their building, of which $180,000 of that was for the facade. Brick repair, improvements to the entrance, windows. You can see the location here at South Washington and English. It is a corner lot. This was the before picture. Take a look at that before picture because, wow, it looks fabulous now. They did a great job, and we're so pleased to be a part of this project. As I mentioned, it was a $180,000 investment, but when you bond that, you pay for it over time. You have to pay some financing costs. So with a total project cost of $210,000, as you are aware, your program for facade loans also includes a maximum $30,000 grant. And as you can see here, this business has qualified for that grant. And as you can see from the math, that basically covers your financing costs. So in a way, this is like an interest-free loan to the organization, to the business. So I will say that, as you all know, staff only do economic business incentives that you have approved the program for, and that's that guidelines document that we've reviewed in recent months. This does require a bit of a waiver. It's not a real substantive waiver, but we typically require the project to be applied for earlier before the project was done. And there was a miscommunication during the COVID time when the owner and their contractor had communications with staff, and there was confusion about when and how. So we do recommend we just, write it off as what do we call it, COVID fog, and know that we do the best we can to communicate with everybody. But we do recommend you waive guidelines on that and just strike it up as a miscommunication. We do have the financing of special assessments against the property to make sure that the loan is repaid over the 15-year period. And now, with your approval today, the improvements would be acquired. We'd set the assessment rate, place those on the property, and then they'd start paying annually those payments with their property tax bill. So I would stand for any questions you all might have.
There are questions for staff about this item. Again, this is about Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. This is for the city manager. I believe this fund is down to $30,000 for the facade program.
I'm sorry, how much is left? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
how much is left?
Yes, actually, we've got a refined number that Kathy's prepared to discuss.
Yeah. Thank you for that. It's about $50,000. But having said that, we are working with 2 businesses right now for applications, so it will soon be depleted. If you approve those 2, that'll be coming to you in the next couple months.
Okay, is there any talk or any plans of putting more money back into this fund, or was this a one-time allocation?
I think that's a good council discussion. As we finish these last 2 projects, when we bring those to you, we'll probably seek your guidance on whether or not you want to restate the grant program and add additional funds, or whether or not we want to sunset it at that point.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Following up on Councilmember Hoheisel, a number of these have happened since I've been on council, but is there a way when we deplete the fund to maybe have overall, whether it's before and after pictures, just showing the impact this has had. And I think this program is focused on downtown, and the citywide one is out of housing, right?
This program is focused on downtown, and that fund is solely used for those downtown projects. We did have a pilot project, I believe, in your district, if I remember correctly, through housing, which was a separate funding source.
Well, I think just those before and after pictures would show the effectiveness of it, so it might be worth having when we have that discussion about continuing.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you, and to build upon Councilmember Johnson's suggestion, I think not only the before and after pictures, but also the investment that was made and how that impacted the value of those properties. I know that's a little more work, but I think that's probably the more compelling argument as to why this program should have reconsideration. Because if we can look at how the properties have increased in value and added to the bottom line for the city, not only the aesthetic value, which is clear, but the dollar value.
Good time to have these discussions during our budget time. Further questions for staff? See none. We'll open up to the public. Is there public input? Again, this is on the petition to renovate building facade at 150 South Washington. See none. We'll bring discussion back to the bench. Is there further discussion on this item? If there is no further discussion, the chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson as this item resides in District 1.
Thanks, Mayor. Before I make a motion, Jennifer, do I need to say in the motion about waiving the policy? Or is this as written fine?
I believe, and Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, the petition, the resolution will accomplish that.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. Well, this is an awesome project, as we saw from the images. I had the opportunity to go tour this place and see the wonderful renovations on the interior. And as good as the exterior looks, the interior is awesome as well. So definitely a project that we are glad to have in our downtown and continuing to beautify and improve our downtown. With that, I would move that the City Council accept the petition, adopt the resolution authorizing the acquisition of facade improvements, and authorize the necessary signatures.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk, open the roll. Members cast the vote. Have received 78 votes. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Repair or removal of dangerous and unsafe structures.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. I'm Kaylin Nethercott with MABCD. The properties under consideration today are part of a group of 12 properties that were first reviewed by the Board of Code Standards and Appeals on April 4th, 2022. Of those 12 properties, 1 was returned to regular code enforcement, 5 were given 30-day extensions by that board, and 1 was given a 60-day extension. The remaining 5 properties you're considering today were all referred for council review. All are located in District 1. None of these properties had representation at the April 4th BCSA meeting. And just as a reminder for everyone, when council does move to condemn a property, those costs are initially borne by the City of Wichita and then assessed as a special assessment against the property. So those are 100% recoverable costs, okay? Our first property is 541 North New York Avenue. This is a 1.5-story frame dwelling. It's vacant for an unknown number of years. The structure has a shifting and cracking block basement walls, rotted and missing siding, a very, very worn roof with holes. The balcony stairs are in danger of collapsing, and the accessory structure is also very dilapidated. This property was placarded as uninhabitable in May of 2021 and has had an open housing case for a year and 1 month. As you can see, premise conditions are overgrown with miscellaneous residential bulky waste items scattered throughout. The 2021 property taxes are delinquent in the amount of $205.57. The property has twice been boarded by MABCD staff, and in the last 5 years, there has been 1 reported police incident at this address. We've probably mowed it since these pictures were taken, would be my guess. So.
Chair recognizes that my mic's off. Chair recognizes Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Thank you, Kaylin. Is there anyone here representing this property? All right. Well, with this one, I would move that the City Council for 541 North New York Avenue close the public hearing, declare the buildings to be dangerous and unsafe structures, accept the BBCSA recommended actions to proceed with condemnation, allowing 10 days to start demolition and 10 days to complete removal of the structures.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk open a roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. The member from District 1 will retain the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. Go to the next one, please.
Our next property is 1345 South Ida Avenue. This one-story frame dwelling structure has been vacant for at least 3 years. The roof is badly worn and collapsing in places. The front porch is rotted to the point of being dangerous. Trim and framing members are also rotted or missing altogether. The 2 accessory structures are also badly deteriorated. The property taxes on this property are delinquent from 2017 through 2021 in the amount of $1,928.93. There's been an open housing case on this property for 11 months. The premise conditions include tall grass and weeds and residential bulky waste. In the last 5 years, there has been 1 reported police incident at this address.
Is there anyone here for this property? All right, thank you. For 1345 South Ida Avenue, I would move that the City Council close the public hearing, declare the building to be a dangerous and unsafe structure, and accept the BBCSA recommended actions to proceed with condemnation, allowing 10 days to start demolition and 10 days to complete removal of the structure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor.
Our next property is 1601 North Green Street. This is a 1-story frame dwelling that's been vacant also for an unknown period of time. The structure has a cracking concrete foundation with missing areas, a sagging and worn roof with holes, a dilapidated front porch, and a deteriorated accessory structure. The property was placarded as uninhabitable in September of 2008 and then again in August of 2021. This property has been the subject of environmental court. The 2021 taxes are delinquent in the amount of $93.07. There has been an open housing case on this property for 10 months. MABCD has boarded up the property. We did that in December of 2021, and a special assessment is pending in the amount of $1,036.47. In the past 5 years, there have been 4 reported police incidents at this address.
All right, is there anyone here representing this property? Okay. For 1601 North Green Street, I would move that the City Council close the public hearing, declare the building to be a dangerous and unsafe structure, and accept the BBCSA recommended action to proceed with condemnation, allowing 10 days to start demolition and 10 days to complete removal of the structure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Go to the next.
Our next property is 1656 North Poplar Avenue. This 1-story frame dwelling has been vacant for at least 6 months. It has a cracking concrete foundation and missing areas, rotted and missing siding, fascia and trim, sagging and worn roof, and deteriorated front and rear porches. This property was placarded as uninhabitable in January 2004 and again in August 2021. It should be noted that the Wichita Police Department has requested MABCD assistance with this property. The property has a long history of code enforcement issues. It's been evaded 4 times since 2009. It's also been mowed annually at least once by city contractors since June of 2020. And it was boarded up by MABCD contractors as well. In the last 5 years, there has been 1 reported police incident at this property.
All right, thank you for that. Is there anyone here for this property? Seeing none on that, for 1656 North Popular Avenue, I would move that the City Council close the public hearing, declare the buildings to be dangerous and unsafe structure, and accept the BBCSA recommended actions to proceed with condemnation, allowing 10 days to start demolition and 10 days to complete removal of the structure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Got one more.
One more. Our last property is 2405 East Murdoch. This is a 1-story frame-dwelling duplex that has been vacant for 15 years. It has a cracking and shifting concrete basement wall, rotted and missing wood siding, and rotted framing members. The property was placarded as uninhabitable in May of 2007. It's important to note that in August 2007, this property was in condemnation and returned to regular code enforcement in August of 2008. The property taxes are delinquent for 2020 and 2021 in the amount of $282.74. The premise conditions are overgrown and have some residential bulky waste. Some attempts at repair have been made, but without the benefit of any type of building permit or inspections.
Awesome. Thank you. Is there anyone here representing this property? Come down to the podium, please.
Good morning, council members. I'm Chris Carter, owner of 2405 East Murdoch, the apartments you just saw. I bought those from a relative of mine a couple years back. Had a problem getting all the transactions into my name, which in the meantime, the city had me to stop doing the work on it. The work you see on it, that's the work I was doing, but I had to stop because I wanted to get it in my name before I could continue to do the work. If given a chance, I will restore the property. That's what I do. I am a carpenter. I do that type of work. If the city allowed me to revamp the property, I will do it and take care of the property taxes.
So you, and thank you for being here. So you do currently own the property?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll be able to pay the property taxes and get the space back habitable?
Yes, sir. That's what I do.
Did you do the work before that?
Yes, sir. I did it. I have to admit, I did the work until the city told me that I couldn't.
So you'll be pulling the permits and stuff going
I will be doing everything that the city needs me to do.
Okay. How much time do you think it would take you to get those taxes paid and get that space back habitable?
Oh, within a month. I mean, for the taxes, I could pay that right away within a month. I need about at least 90 days to get it to look a lot better than what it does now.
Okay. And I appreciate you saying that, but with supply chain and everything, you're sure you can do that in 90 days?
It'll look a lot better, guaranteed.
Okay. That's all the questions I have, Mayor.
So were you the one who initiated the repairs?
Yes, sir.
And from my understanding with the presentation that was presented by staff, this was at one point delinquent as far as safety, that might be the wrong word, and then it went into normal code enforcement, which means it was brought up to standards at that point. Were you involved with the last time this was brought up to those standards?
Yes, I did. I did most of the work on it, everything that you see on the picture. The blue, the new windows and all that. But I had to stop because the city wanted me to stop until I get everything correctly done, so I can be by code.
So that's important. The reason why I asked the question, frankly, is it shows your skill set is adequate to bring this back up to
Yes,
code,
sir. Yes, sir.
as you've examined that, or you've displayed that in the past. That's a important tidbit. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And
Yes, sir.
your understanding of the city required you to have it transferred to your name and
Yes.
to,
Yes, sir.
I guess
Yes,
what we
sir.
would consider administrative type
Yes, sir.
stuff.
That's in the work right now, getting everything in my name right now. Actually,
Okay.
I'm working with security title, getting a solid title search on it and everything right now.
And that's what's held up the
Yes.
continuation.
Yes,
of the
because
improvements.
you don't want to do it if it's not in your name,
Of
So
course.
that's the point, and that's what held me up from finishing the job, continuing the job. But if given a chance by the council, in 90 days, it'll look different. And the taxes will be paid, and we get it all transferred in my name, and then all the stuff that I need to get the work done where I got the permits and all that would be done.
Okay, I appreciate you taking.
Because I understand you have to pull the permits to get it done right by the city, the code, because the city code changes all the time. So to get it done correctly, you have to keep up with the code.
Okay. Are there further questions? Of course. Well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I do have one quick question for Mr. Carter. Are you a licensed contractor?
No, I'll have to get
Just to point out, just a couple of things. When the property was put into condemnation in 2007, 2008, it has not been occupied or in useful service since then. So it was not put back into a status where someone could live in it. That just isn't accurate. Second of all, if there's a stop work order on this one, and I believe that there is, it's because it was unpermitted work being performed by someone who is not a licensed contractor who did not own the property. And we are happy to work with Mr. Carter at your wishes, but the reality is, right at the moment, until the ownership issue is worked out, he doesn't have a lot of options. So just to be clear on that.
Which correlates with the reasoning that he discontinued the work because he needed to retain ownership.
And he can't do it as an owner-occupant because it's not habitable. So it will be a general contractor that's licensed and insured would be required to do this work.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson will retain the floor.
Thanks, Mayor. Have we verified ownership as of today?
Yes.
So Mr. Carter does own the property?
No, he does not. The property records recorded by Sedgwick County do not reflect that he owns this property. And I believe, according to him, he has security title working on some type of a title search so he can obtain that legal right to the property.
So until Mr. Carter has a license and or actually licensed and owns the property, no work really can happen there unless he was to hire someone else.
That is correct.
Since Mr. Carter showed up, I tried to help out when possible.
Of course.
This property, while it does have some damage, doesn't seem as bad as some of the other ones. So I would be willing to move that we defer this for 90 days, which I believe would be the September 21st council meeting, just to have an opportunity for Mr. Carter to potentially gain ownership, get his license, and begin work. That way we can see if some progress has been made and maybe bring this back for potential condemnation at that time if no progress has been made.
We can absolutely do that. That will allow us to converse with him. If the ownership issue is worked out, we'll need to do an interior inspection to determine structural viability and if there's a structural engineer's report that would be required in order for those repairs to proceed. So that would give some time for some of those details to be sorted through.
Awesome. Well, I would move for 2405 East Murdoch Avenue that the council defer this to the September 21st council meeting.
Second.
Motion has been made and then seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast their vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, staff. Madam Clerk.
Northwest Water Facility Testing Plan Services Agreement.
Morning.
Morning, Mayor, Council. Bill Perkins, Public Works and Utilities, with an agreement with CDM Smith for developing a testing plan. This is in regards to Northwest Water Facility. A little bit of the history on it. Of course, the program started back in 2017, 2018. In 2019, we came to an agreement with Wichita Water Partner for design build project, and we've proceeded from there into design and construction. We're continuing with that design and construction under our funding sources through WIFIA and SRF towards completion here in the winter of 24 and 25. A little bit about the Northwest facility as a reminder. Building a lot of reliability into this, a lot of redundancy for all the components to make sure that we can always meet that firm capacity of 120 MGD. And it also gives us other resiliency during droughts and other pipeline problems, and make sure that we have the water quality that is expected and through the system. For the testing plan, the basics about the testing plan, start at the very lowest level with the actual assets and components. Of course, on a project this size are very numerous, but also working your way up through. So you have the flow rates of individual process trains, a lot of different ways and routes that the water goes through the facility, and to verify the redundancies. Again, making sure that we have that redundancy so that we always have 120 MGD available, and then verifying the water quality. So these are all the basics of having this testing plan and the criticality of this plan. So on a project this scale, having a thorough testing plan is very critical. You have very complex processes, like I said, multiple trains, multiple ways that water goes through. You have the different chemical systems. There's a lot of systems involved, a lot of different processes. Having this formal testing plan developed by a consultant is going to ensure that this project will result in the Northwest Water Facility that the council expects and is directed. So the need to do this under consulting services. So a lot of it has to do with the project scale and the time that's going to be involved with putting this plan together. This is not a small plan. The number of assets and all those systems that I keep mentioning are going to result in a lot of parts to the plan. Again, all the process trains are numerous. So we're really needing a consultant that's experienced with developing these types of complex system testing plans, and also familiar with the particular processes that we're using in the project for filtering and finishing the water. We went through an RFP process for selecting a consultant to bring to you today. We put out the request for proposals out to the public. We received 3 proposals. Those were reviewed by the Staff Screening and Selection Committee. The committee for this project was made up of the Project Steering Committee, which includes 2 city council members and other stakeholders, plus the required city staff. The committee reviewed and the committee interviewed all 3 of the proposers, and based on the identified criteria, they selected a preferred proposer that we bring in today. In the overall program, for the budget for the program as approved by council in December of 2019, there was $20 million for consultant advisor services. The budget is more than sufficient for this agreement, which is not to exceed of $339,700. The recommendation is to approve this agreement with CDM Smith for the testing plan development. I stand for any questions.
Questions for staff? See none. Thank you. Is there input from the public on this item? See none, we'll bring discussion back to the bench. Is there further discussion on this item? If there is no further discussion, then I'll make the motion to accept staff's recommended action to approve the agreement and authorize necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Members cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Appeal hearing on the denial of animal maintenance permit and breeder license.
So this is a bit of a departure from our normal process. So the chair will recognize our Director of Law can you just give us a brief overview for folks who are watching about what is the next item on the agenda and how it's different?
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Jennifer Magana, City Attorney. The council has a different role at this point in the meeting. You serve now in the legal jargon in terms of as a quasi judicial body. This is a quasi judicial hearing, meaning it's partly judicial. You have the authority under city ordinance to conduct this hearing. It's administrative in nature, meaning there's no jail time possible for an outcome. Your role is to serve as an impartial, neutral finder of fact. To conduct the hearing, Mayor, you are the hearing officer and you have discretion. Council members can ask questions of the witnesses as appropriate. There are some guidelines in the ordinance that we start with. You will allow opening statements by the parties. The city's representative will start with its evidence. This hearing is an appeal from a finding or ruling by the Wichita Police Department. And while the City Law Department represents the Police Department, my role is separate, and I'm in no way an advocate for this process. I stay separated from that and really don't know of any of the merits of the case and will not advise you to that. After the hearing's completed, Council will make a motion to recess into an executive session where you may deliberate with me as your attorney advising you just on the process of the deliberation. And you will, if you reach a conclusion, you'll come back out and take a vote, either upholding the ruling, overturning the ruling, or modifying it within the bounds of the ordinance. You would not have to do that today. You would have 30 days under the ordinance to do so, but you certainly can do that. So that's the process. It's informal, are to allow the parties to have as much time as reasonably necessary to present the evidence, but you do have discretion on how you manage the process from this point forward. The city is represented by Assistant City Attorney Nate Johnson, and I believe the applicant or the citizen is here on his own behalf. So you can ask them to begin by introducing themselves. You will also ask them to swear in any witnesses with the clerk before any witnesses are called, and you can begin at any time.
Very good. Let's go ahead and just take a 5-minute break for folks who might need that 5-minute break, and then we'll get started with this process as we're unsure how long it will last. We want to make sure that we don't break in the middle of this. So we will recess for 5 minutes, come back at 10:20. We will return from recess, and we will begin, I believe we have everyone here. We will begin with opening statements starting with the representative of the city. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Whipple and members of City Council. My name is Nate Johnson, Assistant City Attorney. I'll be representing the Wichita Police Department today as the designee, basically, who made the decision about the permit at issue. As you heard about before on the agenda this morning, is something a little bit different for this body. It's not a legislative decision, but what we call a quasi-judicial decision. We're not in the courtroom, thus the quasi, but it is a judicial decision in that I will be asking you to make a decision of fact, a fact-finding investigation here, to then decide whether the permits at issue were properly denied, whether that denial should be reversed, or if there are some modifications that this body would like to implement. I provided a packet during the recess of the relevant documents for this appeal hearing today. It includes the application, the denial letter, the notice of appeal email, and then also a couple city code sections that are relevant to our discussion here today. And then finally, even though it's the first tab in the packet, the city's proposed findings of fact, which we submit specifically pursuant to City Code 2.04.235. We ask that you uphold the denial here. There are two permits at issue, as noted on the agenda report. First, an animal maintenance permit with a variance, the idea being that the city was allowing Mr. Thomas an opportunity here to set up a facility for the maintenance of animals even before acquiring them. A lot of times we try to get registration or certification of the animals before that. Here we are at least trying to consider the facility beforehand. The second permit is a related breeder's permit. And at issue is whether 19 dogs will be allowed on a property that was not allowed to be inspected at 2300 North Broadway. And there are two basic reasons both permits should be denied. The standards that will apply are basically the same for both here. The first is that Mr. Thomas did not allow city staff to access the property, to inspect it, to see whether it was safe for 19 dogs on the property. The second issue is that from the evidence that was collected, what city staff could see from the street and what they know about Mr. Thomas and the property, there are a lot of dilapidated buildings. There's fencing around the property that doesn't reach the ground and that can easily be used for escape by one of the 19 dogs. And there aren't things like a waste plan to deal with that many animals in a safe and sanitary manner. You will hear from the city side two witnesses, Lieutenant Derek Purcell from the police department, who was the lead on the investigation into this application, as well as Mr. Steve Grimes from the Metropolitan Area Building and Construction Department to talk a little bit about the buildings there. Their testimony will demonstrate no inspection was allowed, and that under the city code, that clearly means a permit cannot be provided. They will also demonstrate the amount of time that was put into trying to inspect this property, not just this time, but with other permit applications by Mr. Thomas, and that he should not have an opportunity now to just allow an inspection to once again continue to use city staff time in a way that doesn't fit with the city code anyway. And regardless, there is no evidence at all that's been provided that that facility, the property there at 2300 North Broadway, will be safe, will provide for the health and welfare of the 19 animals that are proposed to be there. So we ask that you uphold the denial by city staff, that you vote to deny the permit, absolutely. And I do want to emphasize, again, this is quasi-judicial. We're not trying to decide anything beyond a reasonable doubt. We are looking at the evidence to determine what is best and best revealed by that evidence. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes Mr. Ken Thomas for his opening statement.
Thank you, Mayor and city staff. Sitting there kind of listening to him, but first thing is when I asked for this, I asked the appeal to be for the denial of the waiver for the animal permit and variance, denial of the waiver. I don't see it here, denial of the waiver, because, and to talk about the appeal of the variance. What we have is when city staff came out, we had 4 people there. We had Mr. Steve Grimes, worked with him before, and we had Lieutenant from the police came out, plus we had his boss and another patrol officer. 4 people out there. It's fixing to rain. Steve's boss is not here. He said, well, Ken, if you don't have a working toilet and lights for them dogs, we're not going to approve you. I said, don't have it. We can just stick them all outside. We got concrete. We have drains that go to city sewer. We're okay. We'll just do it there. No problem. And then Lieutenant over here went over there and said, well, we're not going to approve you because you don't have a tension bottom of that fence. And he got there, and I'll show you the fence, pictures of everything. He pulled it up about 2 inches, say, them dogs can get out of there. He probably lifted, 300-400 pounds. So he can lift up. And I said, well, let's just go over to Connie's, and we'll all talk about this and see if we can get this figured out. And they said, no. Okay. Then I asked the lieutenant, I said, well, you want to go in and take a look? He said, no, don't want to go out unless all these other people come in with me. And I'm going, well, why should it be? You're already sitting there denying me even before you get in. And so that was that project. And later on, I'll show you the pictures, what we got. I'll show you the place, and we'll talk about it. And hopefully we can work through this. And I appreciate you very much for your time.
Thank you. With that, the chair recognizes Attorney Jan Jarman for a presentation of further evidence.
It'll be me again, though, but I appreciate it. Again, Nate Johnson, Assistant City Attorney. Thank you, Mayor.
My apologies, I'm reading.
Oh, no problem. And I will be calling Lieutenant Derek Purcell as our first witness. And I'll let him use the mic more, if that setup makes sense for everybody.
The chair recognizes the witness and will ask the clerk to swear in the witness.
You raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that you will tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Could you please state your name for the record here today?
My name is Derek Purcell.
And what is your role here with the city?
I'm a lieutenant. I'm in charge of animal services.
Okay, are you familiar with the permit applications at issue here today on this appeal?
I am.
Okay, and you reviewed those applications previously?
I have.
Could you describe some of the concerns that you had with these applications?
Well, namely, the concerns that I had were the health, safety, and welfare of the animals on the property, the health, safety, and welfare of the surrounding community, as well as the overall condition of the structure and the plan for caring for the animals.
Did the application include much information about disposal of animal waste for the 19?
There was on a diagram that said the animal waste would be collected daily and then removed weekly.
In your experience, do you think that would be enough?
No. At the shelter, we clean daily, we remove waste daily. The application also indicated that the kennels would be cleaned inside and out once a week. The standard is daily.
And which shelter are you referring to?
The Wichita Animal Shelter.
And you work there regularly as well?
Yes, sir.
Now, I'd like to move then to your on-site inspection. You set that up with Mr. Thomas, correct?
Yes, sir.
Who else was with you that day?
It was Steve Grimes with MABCD, Courtney, I think it's Capello, that's how you say his name, with MABCD, and then Officer Jesus Soto. He's the 48 beat CP officer. He's the community policing officer that patrols that neighborhood.
Okay. And why did you ask people from MABCD to be
there? From my experience I was a supervisor at Patrol North for a short period of time, and I'd seen the buildings, and I could, my casual understanding was they were in a various state of disrepair. I'd known that they'd caught fire at one point in time, and they'd been broken into in the past. I didn't feel comfortable examining the buildings without somebody that had an eye for that sort of thing. I didn't want to walk into a place that was going to cause injury to myself or others, so I asked MABCD if they had any history on the buildings and if they could be there when we inspected them.
And for Officer Soto?
He's familiar with the neighborhood, which is part of my concerns, and so I asked him to be there just so he could take in the information with me, and I had a good frame of reference as to how the neighborhood would be affected.
Were you allowed access to the property to inspect it?
I was not.
Were you able to observe anything from the street?
From the street, one of the things I did point out was if you were going to house dogs on this property, you'd have to make sure that they were secure. And I did point out that just from where I was standing, I could see the fences weren't attached to the ground, and that a dog could push its way under those fences.
And was that only when you lifted the fence up, or were there parts of the fence along the property where there were openings in?
I didn't inspect all the fence to show that it was not attached to the ground.
And you believe a dog could get through the fencing as it's set up now?
Yes, sir.
Was there any further information about a waste plan?
None that I'm aware of.
Did you see any dog houses on the property or other shelters for the animals?
No.
Are you aware of whether Mr. Thomas has any other maybe state or federal licenses for animal maintenance or breeding?
He does not, to my knowledge.
Now, you prepared a portion of the denial letter to Mr. Thomas, is that correct?
I did.
Now, what kinds of things did you find in this denial letter?
Basically, I went through ordinance and I bullet pointed all the issues that I was supposed to consider and whether or not I approved or denied it, and then I gave an explanation as to why I denied it on each one of those points.
Now, what are some of the, and again, probably some of the things you observed before, but in your denial letter, what were some of the reasons that you denied the permit?
Okay. The concerns I had was one of the things I had to look for, I guess, were that the animals would be kept or maintained at all times in a safe, sanitary manner, that the quarters in which such animals are kept or confined will be adequately lighted, ventilated, and are so constructed and maintained so they can be kept in a clean, sanitary condition, that the health and well-being of the animals will not in any way be endangered by the manner of keeping or confinement, that the keeping of such animals will not harm the surrounding neighborhood or disturb the peace and quiet of the surrounding neighborhood, that the keeping of such animals will not cause fouling of the air by offensive odors and thereby create or cause unreasonable annoyance or discomfort to the neighbors or others in close proximity to the premises where the animals are kept or harbored.
I think that's good. And that what you're citing is the city code section for the animal maintenance permit,
yes,
correct?
Sir.
And as part of that permit, that was with the variance included.
Yes, sir.
And the standards, though, for the dog breeder's permit under city code, about the same, would you say?
Similar, yes.
Did you analyze it roughly the same way?
I did.
Okay. And that's all I have, Lieutenant, for now. Thank you very much. I believe he has a chance to cross.
Of course. Chair recognizes Mr. Thomas to rebuttal or to cross-examine the witness.
How you doing, sir?
Good.
So, you know that area is in what? Is that in a heavy industrial area?
It seems industrial, yes.
Okay, so, tell me, what's a waiver of...
I'm sorry.
Oh. Okay. I guess we'll get to tag team this. Okay, tell me what is a waiver of an animal maintenance permit? What is that?
A waiver of an animal maintenance permit?
Yeah, what is a waiver?
I don't know, what do you...
Well, you got it. Well, I signed one, and apparently that's what I asked for, and it's not a waiver. It's waiver for animal permit, neighborhood agreement.
That's it.
Well, that's what it is, and I'll probably have one. I even have one I probably gave her. That's what it is. So, just can you kind of tell me kind of about that? How does that work?
That's the first I've ever seen that document.
Okay. Well, tell me how it works. So, tell me how it works.
How you would request
No, just tell me how it works. If I got this here, and this waiver, tell me about the waiver. Tell me how it works, tell me about it.
Did you?
You over the program?
Did you request a
Yes,
waiver?
yeah.
So, Mr. Thomas, I believe the question, and clarify if I'm incorrect, is you would like the witness to describe how the waiver works?
Yes, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, you could describe how a waiver
I'm unfamiliar
works.
with the waiver process. I'm sorry, I did not waive an animal maintenance permit. What is this?
The waiver I asked for.
Okay. I did not receive a waiver.
If you look, I can't.
I believe he,
Evidence one.
Mr. Thomas. Oh, and very good. And he's answered the question that he's unaware of the process for a waiver, and he's added that he's unaware that there's a waiver in this case.
Can you look at the date?
Yes.
Well, what's the date?
It says March 10th, 2022.
Okay, so business people gotten it, but you have not received it, correct?
I did not receive a waiver, no.
Let's do some talking. Hey, it's interesting. Well, I got national rendering. What, mile down? How far is national rendering? What, half a mile, a mile? Where's national rendering at?
I don't know.
Have you ever drove up and down 21st Street?
I have.
Okay, does it smell? Broadway, Mosley, does it smell around Mosley?
I'm not aware of any.
You know, so apparently you haven't been through there in the summer months. It reeks. You got national rendering, it reeks. Okay. And you're telling me 19 dogs might be a smell? And Matt, when we have plants in there reeks, it makes it more interesting. Okay. Let's go back to the fence issue. You made a fence issue. Okay. Okay. In your, okay, MAPC, we'll have Steve over here ask. I'm going to ask him if he has there's not a fence on, we call it what we call it, tension wire on the back of it, right? Tension fence on the bottom, that's what you want, correct?
If you're going to house dogs, you're going to have to secure the fence to the ground.
Okay, so you're telling me on my big run, I'm gonna have to secure, okay, so how should I secure it on the ground? What, every 6 feet, every 12? I mean.
For the pens we establish, it's a matter of, I think, 18 inches.
Okay, pens and, okay, kennels and pens. Okay, what's our definition of a kennel in this city? What's our definition?
I don't have that in front of me.
Well, I do. You wanna read it for me? So who sets themselves up? Kennel. Okay. Would you mind reading kennel to the city? Right there. What's kennel? Read that, please.
It says kennel means any premise where there is being maintained a total of 5 or more adult dogs owned by the property resident.
Resident. Is that it says resident?
Yeah.
Okay, owned by the property resident. Resident means that house, residential. Residence is residential, right?
I believe resident
means
terms
residential.
to someone that lives there.
Yeah, somebody lives there. It's your residence. So that's in your neighborhood. That's in the, yeah. Is there a residence there? Will there be a residence there?
Where?
There. There's no residence there. That's commercial.
Okay.
So there's no residence. So the kennel underneath there don't apply. Kennel means the premise. So your kennel, and, okay, do you have at where your kennel that we can look in your, anywhere to see what the specs are? Because I know when I deal with Steve over there, man, we go look at these books and we'll look and see what the specs are. They're open, we can look at everything, and we can all sing kumbaya. But where's this where it says kennel, and it says residential, and I'm in, what, heavy commercial? Since you checked that, I'm in a, what, GI, general industrial, right?
I didn't check your zoning. That was somebody else.
Okay. And so you said you probably should have checked the zoning, be sure what regs are here in the ordinance, correct?
I should have somebody else checked the zoning and emailed me that you were in the appropriate zoning.
Okay, what zoning's that?
I don't know.
Okay, I'm in general industrial. Okay. Let's go back here to, was this the fence that you pulled up?
Yeah, that's part of your fence along your driveway.
Right, but that's the fence you pulled up, right?
Yeah, that's the one I pushed against.
Okay, can we put number 1 or number 2, so y'all, when y'all look at it, y'all can kind of see what he's talking about?
Yes.
You mind? Here, let me give it back to him for a minute. Wish you brought your glasses. We did put a tension wire on the back of this, but I want the city council to look, see how big this fence is, 10-foot fence, and we even put a tension wire on the bottom of it for his recommendation. He said, hey, you need one. Boom, it's there. That's what we did. But did you tell me that if the other people did not go, that you wasn't going to come in?
No, I wasn't going to inspect the property without being assured of my safety, no.
Of your safety?
Yes.
Okay. Safety from what?
The structures.
Okay. Did you realize, and Steve would know because I sent him the paperwork a year ago, but did you realize that the fire department, fire marshal, had a building inspector named David David Hartwell went in and did the inspection on the whole 19 buildings, and only 4 was something that we need to address on out of 19 buildings.
Was I familiar with that?
Yeah.
No, that was why I had them come, because I'm not familiar with the status of your buildings.
So, did you tell me that you would deny me anyway because of that fence?
I told you that I would deny you without being able to inspect the property because there was obvious issues that I could see from where we were standing.
Okay, what was the issues?
Just the obvious issue of the fence.
Okay, so you said that you was going to deny me anyway because you seen the fence even before you got into the place.
No, I said without the ability to access the property, I was going to deny you, as there was issues I could observe from where I was standing.
Well, I think we have a little problem with that because what I heard in my ears was you're going to deny me just looking at that fence. Being before I got in, it's like, well, you know, did I say let's go to Connie's and talk about it?
I don't recall anything about Connie's.
Okay, because usually when there's a problem, usually I'll sit down and talk with staff. Say, what can we do? Did Steve's boss did I tell you I would just move the runs outside instead of inside?
Yeah, you did say there was a structure you were going to use initially as a kennel structure, and then you were going to bring dog houses in. Your plans were changing as we were talking.
Okay, they was changing because I was trying to find an even ground where we could work it out. That's why it was changing. And you, instead of going over to Connie's and trying to figure out how we can make this thing work, you said, no, we're not. Okay. So, I guess here's another fence. Was this also the fence, or was this the fence?
Yeah, that was another fence that's not attached to the ground.
It touches the ground, and there's the wire there.
Yeah, attached.
Attached, it is. I know, but there's your,
Well, a tension wire doesn't constitute attachment.
okay, okay, would you mind showing me regs that you have right now that says it has to be attached? You have the regs in front of you. You have paper in there in front, because why don't I just have a big pit there where they couldn't dig out? Okay, do you have it on the regs that has to be attached to the ground? Looks like it's all attached to the ground. Look here, it looks like you got a tension wire here. Do you have regs that you can show us? And how far it needs to be attached or anything?
I didn't bring anything with me, but we do have standards for kennels that we enforce when we require a kennel being built on a property.
Okay, you have kennels. Okay, we established kennel is for residential areas. Okay. This is, I guess, mark this B.
You want B or number 2?
Number 2, thank you. Keep me straight. This is a picture of what we have outside. It's a 6x10. You can see a top shade in it. You see doghouse. You see a rubber mat. You see food and water. I got a vet coming out this evening to look at this and say it's in good health. So, but here, I want you to look at this for me. So there's housing. Okay. Not under kennel, but under housing. Because we know, because this is a housing run, not kennel, because yours says.
Mayor, as presiding officer, I'd like to just object to continued argument and try to focus on questions at least. Try to provide some time there, but that's my objection, to focus on questions.
And your objection is accepted. Please focus on questions of the witness and present the evidence to us.
Okay.
You will be afforded, of course, a closing statement where you can make these statements as well.
Okay, anyway. What this shows right here is this is between 2 buildings. It's concrete. The drain, you can wash, the drain goes into the sanitary sewer. Okay.
Sir, before we continue, do you have any more questions for the witness?
Okay. So you have housing. So you got a dog house. These are what? 6. These are 6x10, right? 60.
I've never seen those.
Okay, you never seen those. So there's concrete behind. There's a concrete drain behind there. So to me, it looks like somebody can wash and keep it pretty well sanitary. You got a shade up to keep them cool, be healthy. It looks pretty good to me. Don't it to you?
I've never inspected those kennels.
Okay, but they're not kennels because it's not a residential area, right?
I think we're arguing semantics, and I'm not in the business of arguing.
I'm not arguing. I'm just looking at what ordinance says, because that's what you're getting me is on ordinance. Ordinance says residential. We're going to put this as 3. Yeah. And this is about a picture of the same, right?
I'd never seen those kennels.
Okay, but it's almost like 4, right?
They're similar, yes.
Okay, similar. Here's another picture. Okay. Halo. You know anything about that?
I don't.
Okay. So you don't know nothing about Halo. So if we put one of these on our dogs that runs out on the perimeter that needs to be attached by some way or whatever, that we're not sure of how you want it attached or in the ordinance because we don't see it here, and I think you don't have it. I think it's a recommendation, not a requirement myself. It's two different. But these halo, and I'm gonna let y'all look at that and read this is a halo that you stick on a dog. And what it does is it tells you where the dog is, exactly where it is. It also has a little shock where if it gets close to the fence, it'll shock them so they're not running close to the fence. Don't you think that'd be pretty good with that large area? Think it'd be pretty more beneficial?
Mr. Thomas, let's, I think the questioning needs to be focused on his experience with the appeal process or with your experience during the inspection. I'm not sure if it's material of his opinion of other types of technology at this time. So can we just really zoom in on the questions about the actual incident?
Okay, that's all I got. I mean, I was going to talk about the halo, but I guess I'll talk. I'll talk about the halo then.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course. And counsel for follow-up questions.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Lieutenant. Just a few. Got this. No. A few questions. The first, do you believe the animal maintenance permit here should be waived?
No,
You decided that the permit should be denied
I did.
and that there should not be any dogs on the property as you saw it.
That's correct.
Did you deny it because of the zoning?
No.
Okay. You saw a few pictures during cross-examination. In your experience, did those pictures show the full property border?
No.
Okay. And again, just to confirm, those kennels and dog houses that you saw were not on the property when you went there?
I never went on the property, so I can't tell you what was or was not on it.
And you had not seen them before otherwise?
No.
Okay, thank you so much. That's my question. And I guess it's
thank
still...
the witness.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. My next witness will be Mr. Grimes.
Chair welcomes the witness and asks the clerk to swear the witness in.
Would you raise your right hand and do you swear or affirm to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
Thank you so much for being here today. Could you state your name
My name is Steve Grimes.
and your role with the city, please?
I'm a building inspector with Sedgwick County.
Are you familiar with the property at issue here, the 2300 North Broadway?
Yes, sir.
And what is your familiarity like with this property?
We had a complaint about the property a year and a half ago, maybe, to, I guess it was from the fire department. They wanted us to come out and assess the damage, and we were denied that ability to get on the property.
So you were denied access by Mr. Thomas?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you ever go back to the property to inspect for another permit?
I did meet the lieutenant out there on the day in question, I guess.
For the animal maintenance and
Yes.
breeders permits here? I should have been more specific, my apologies. So you attended the on-site attempted inspection?
Yes, I was there in case they wanted us to assess buildings if we could get in the property.
And were you allowed access to the property?
I was not.
And were you able to view anything from your place next to the property about what it looks like or anything like that?
Not really. It's a large complex, multiple buildings, and you just can't see a lot from the gate from Broadway, basically.
And that's all I've got, Mr. Grimes, until rebuttal. Thank you very much. Oh, stay up here. You might have some questions.
Thank you, counsel. Mr. Thomas, it's your witness.
Yeah, how you doing, Steve?
Good.
Sorry, I see you here.
No problem.
So, so this is probably right after the last fire we had there. That took the fire department, 6 hours? They even decided they was gonna put water on the fire, on the building or not. And, finally put water on it. Y'all, you don't have the letter that you gave me, right, with you?
I do not.
Okay. We had a meeting didn't we have a meeting on that letter?
We had a meeting in the office
On the letter, correct?
to discuss,
The letter,
right.
okay. Okay. And it wasn't in that letter, y'all's point was, the place needs to be secured and secured, buildings need to be secured better. Was that suggested letter? And probably that, try to do something with that one building that looked like the beams, of the fire damaged.
I believe our concern was that we couldn't get into the properties to see any of the buildings to know whether or not they were,
Damaged or not?
well, damaged or secured.
I know, but wouldn't that be the fire marshal deal, for how damaged it would be? Are you a structural engineer?
I am not.
Okay, so, but David Hartwell was. He's a structural engineer. Did you, and you didn't have his report, but I gave you his report, correct?
I don't know. I don't remember seeing this report.
Well, okay. I sent you David Hartwell's report.
We would ask to keep the questions about the date in question and the incident in question, if possible, unless your line of questioning leads to that.
I'm sorry. Please bear with me. Okay. So you was there to look in the building and see it was safe or not. But you didn't have no report or anything on how safe the building was even beforehand.
Yeah, usually if we see something that looks unsafe, then we can require a structural engineer to further assess the situation.
Right, but we was talking about a building where the dogs was gonna be housed at, correct? Or not, or do you just want to go in underneath underneath his on violation of the 4th Constitution? Why didn't y'all just do it separately? And this is over a year and a half ago. Why didn't you, if you felt like it was bad, why didn't you just went to municipal court and got you to go in?
I'm just waiting on.
This is a year and a half.
Right.
So apparently it was no big deal. Year and a half. How many places that's in that area that don't have a fence around it? You know, we got the grain elevator don't have a fence. It's being tore down. We got about 2 buildings on 21st Street, 3 buildings.
To object to not relevance
Well,
what that property is like.
And again, I will sustain the objection. The line of questioning, again, we wanted to focus on the day in question and about the particular incident. So if you would please rephrase the question.
Okay, is there a property around that area that does not have a fence and where people could go in and out?
I'm sure there is. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, have y'all gave them a notice to go in and take a look?
I don't know.
Just like you gave me, y'all want to go take a look if you gave them a notice?
I don't know what property you're asking about, so.
Well, there's like 5 or 6 around there, so it's just my property, correct? And it's over a year and a half, correct?
We get multiple complaints and then we just follow up on them when we get them.
Okay, but this is just, okay, but there's a fence around the place, correct?
I don't know the state of the fence around your property because we can't go all around.
Okay, but there's a fence. Well, you see from the road, there's a fence.
I haven't inspected the fence around the property.
From the road, there's a fence around it, correct?
You can see a fence from Broadway.
Okay, thank you. So you can see a fence around the property. And this has been over a year and a half. She wanted to come in, tell on his tails to come in, correct?
If they needed our help, we were
Okay.
going to be
Okay.
there.
But since your boss ain't here, he cannot say anything about, he wasn't going to recommend it because there wasn't no light or bathroom. You didn't hear that, correct?
I did not.
Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
We can thank the witness.
And no further
Oh, excuse, no further questions. My apologies,
No further
Counselor.
questions and no further witnesses.
No further witness. Mr. Thomas, do you have any witnesses you would like to call upon at this time?
I would like to, the Director of Law, I'd like to call her for a witness. Because
I would object to that. It's not relevant to the proceeding. We are fact-finding investigation about this specific instance, not general questions about the city code.
No, it wasn't not general
Agreed.
question, sir. It was what I asked for. I asked for the variance and the denial, not the animal maintenance permit and breeder's license, and that's what I asked for. So it's kind of like what I asked for and what's on there is like two different things as far as I'm concerned. Because I ain't asked for money back for the breeder's license and the maintenance. Because if I was going to be wavered on the maintenance, I might as well get my money back. The breeder, I don't have the dogs anyway. But, so I asked for money back on that. And I have paperwork here that will show I asked for my money back. Right here. I asked for it back on May the 10th. This is whatever number that is. 5 or 6.
Hey, Mr. Thomas, I believe you're opening yourself up to be the witness yourself. And my question is, were you looking for the money back because you were no longer seeking a permit?
Well, if the animal maintenance permit, if I would got the waiver on it, I wouldn't need one to begin with. That's why I really was asking was for a waiver. And waiver, and if you look at the waiver on the and maybe you can ask her, what's the waiver? The waiver is being 200 feet away from residence. 200 feet. I'm 300 feet from residential. I'm from general industrial. That's what I was asking for. And the variance was just telling them how many dogs I was looking for. That's what I was looking at. And I don't mind working, and I love to work with the city staff. We'll drink coffee and we'll sit down and get it figured out. And I love to come back and, say, let's figure this out. See what's going on. Let's work it out. But when somebody comes to you and you don't know what the game is, it's like playing cards and they're changing what's wild while you're playing poker. And it's hard. And that's what, if you don't have the regs in front of you and you can't find it, and then you don't know if they're just asking it if it's a requirement on it, or they're just if it's an ordinance require, or they just want you to have it. And that requirements but requirements is something that ordinance are through ordinance, not request. And that's what I was looking at. And I love to say, hey, when we just kick back, wait 60 days, and go through this and see if we can work out everything. Because I don't know why I should have got my waiver. Also, I think Don's up here. I'm going to call him. We have, the city does have some property on there. They have, I think, 1 acre.
Again, calling Mr. King, I believe, again, not relevant to this proceeding of whether this investigation appeal or not.
And I assume Mr. King was not there at that day. And thus the objection sustained.
Well, yeah, but I always wonder why something gets a little, why somebody comes up, not want to work, want to be more aggressive when they come up, and they know they have to fence in an acre of their property, and it should have been fenced in 2014. They have not. But, you know, I just like to work. You know, I love to work with city staff. I like to say, hey, but it's sometimes you need to know what the rules and regs are and what the playing field is so you can abide for them. And that's why I came to y'all first, because I wanted to be sure to get it out and figure out what's going so I can be sure that we're doing everything. I want to stay in front, not stay behind. Because the ordinance, they always want you to have the dogs, so really you're technically in violation of the ordinance to begin with. So, and I appreciate y'all working with me and everything, Mayor and Whipple. But, I just, when somebody tells you, hey, we're going to deny you anyway, even before they get to the front gate, you just throw your hands up. What the heck? It's what they're talking about is not even an ordinance. An ordinance on any of it, bathroom, lighting, it don't say that. And the guys they're already denying me even before they get in. So that's what was the problem.
So, Mr.
Appreciate you.
Thomas, would you stand for questions?
Yeah, I'm done.
I believe the council members were on the board at one point asking questions. If you are interested in asking questions of Mr. Thomas, please click your button. My main question, because I think it's at the heart of really what's going on here, is did you allow the city officials to do the inspection?
I was going to allow the dog guy to do the city inspection, and he refused to do it.
And he refused to do it?
Yes, he refused.
Okay. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas, thank you for being here today in your testimony. Quick question. Do you currently possess a license issued by the state of Kansas pursuant to the Kansas Pet Animal Act? Yes or no?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Councilmember Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Thomas, thank you for being here today. It says here that there was an open complaint already for the property, and that MABCD was already denied access for inspection. Is that the case? Before even the inspection for the kennels and whatnot?
I don't think we denied. I did not deny it. We just had a letter. I got the letter and we went up there and talked about it. And I asked them why, would you want to, well, there's other places that we have a fence, we're secure. We was talking about the security of the place. Was it fenced? Our place is fenced. And we have, of course, we have people going through there. We fix the fence. We have people cutting torches and grinders and everything else, and we repair where they come in. We check it daily or twice a day, the property. But because we just sat there and talked about it, and they didn't say anything else. So I let it be.
Okay.
And it's been over a year and a half, sir.
Okay, yeah, that's just what I'm reading here, and that's one of the reasons it seemed that maybe Lieutenant Purcell had people come out, is because there was an open complaint and they were denied access for inspection. So just wanted to ask about that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Further questions for the witness? See none. Thank you. The chair recognizes the city for a rebuttal of the witness.
And no rebuttal. I'm ready for a brief closing whenever that is appropriate.
There's no further questions from the body, then we will move into closing statements, I do rise to a Parliament inquiry to our legal staff as the city presented the introduction statement first. Does the city also present the closing statement first, or does the appellant?
I will check the ordinance. I don't believe it speaks to that. So it just says they're both limited to 10 minutes. So in your discretion, you can choose who goes first.
My discretion will be based on precedence. In your legal opinion, do they normally retain the order, or do they switch the order?
It would be the retained order, yes.
Thank you for that. With that, Councilor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, city requests that you uphold the denial of both permits here. First is kind of a clarifying issue. I would just at least like to point to tab 2, which is the animal maintenance permit part of this situation. Included there at page 4 is this request for variance of domestic animal maintenance permit requirements. And in the middle box, Mr. Thomas indicated the variance request was for 15 more animals, meaning 19 dogs total, and asking for a waiver of the animal permit. At tab 4 is the denial letter. It refers to the variance, indicates that was denied as well. And Lieutenant Purcell indicated in his testimony that that is what happened. And Mr. Thomas referred to it as variance and waiver. All of that was included in the decision-making process here under the heading of the animal maintenance permit, which is how we end up with the agenda item. Second, to address this kennel definition issue, just if you look at the code, it says owned by a resident. There are commercial kennels in the city, the idea being that a resident of the city has to own it, not that the kennel itself has to be zoned as a residence. And Lieutenant Purcell did testify as well that this isn't a zoning issue. It's about the safety and welfare of the animals demonstrated by an inspection. There are a couple main reasons why we believe this should be denied. The first, there was no inspection as required. City Code 6.04157 requires that for animal maintenance permits. That's included in your packet. 6.04.155 requires the inspection for the breeder's permits. And in this instance, as noted in my opening statement, Mr. Thomas signed the applications, and both of those applications include a sentence right above his signature. It's tab 2, page 3, and then tab 3, page 1, that says that he will allow an inspection. And if he doesn't, then the application has to be denied. He signed this as part of the application. And then second, from what evidence that we have, this was not a space that is safe and sanitary and good for the animals that are being proposed. What evidence we have that was available to the lieutenant and who went along demonstrates that to be the case. There was an open complaint on the property prior. It's unclear what the fencing situation is like, and all of the instances of a better place, a more secure place that Mr. Thomas provided were things that he's done since the inspection was supposed to take place that cannot be verified yet by city. And given the amount of time that city staff have invested into this permit application, we believe he should not have another opportunity to allow an inspection. If he'd like to try again with an application that is open to him, is allowed under city code. But this appeal should be denied. We ask that you approve the proposed findings of fact as well, which are included as tab 1 in your packet, and then distinguish between the animal maintenance permit, including the variance request, and the breeder's permit, which we, again, both believe should be denied, and that denial should be upheld. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Mr. Thomas for a closing statement up to 10 minutes.
First thing you'll need to remind yourself what the lieutenant said. I asked him if he wanted to go in. He said no. He didn't want to go in. He was supposed to be inspected. He didn't want to go. I was supposed to let him in, let him take a look. I mean, he didn't want to go. And Mr. Steve's boss said he wasn't going to prove it because of the lighting and that. It's no issue come. You know, because what I signed was for having them to come out and do the inspection, have them come out and do it, and he didn't want to go. That's what it was. And then when I wanted to go over and talk and try to figure out and I said, well, I'll just put the kennels out, not the kennels, I'll put the runs outside. The runs are outside. You take the pictures. We have drain, we have everything there. You know, it's when people move stuff, you don't know. It's like the fence. He said fence, okay? When y'all go back there, ask them for the fence. Do you have something on the fence on the ordinance? Look and see. They don't have it. And he didn't. And when I asked for the waiver, he never seen a waiver. Came out, he wasn't looking for a waiver. You need to ask about the waiver. When you're back there, ask her about the waiver. If I wavered the maintenance permit, does that apply? What applies there? That's what we need to be asking. The variance, I put the variance in because of 19 dogs. I want to be sure to do 19. Mr. Frey said, hey, you got a Kansas? 19 dogs or less, you do not have to have a permit. But I'm going to go ahead, after the vet comes out, I'm going to go ahead and get a hobby so I can have the stadium come out and take a look next month. That's what I have. That's why I got my vet coming out this evening to check. So she can write off the report, and we'll send it to the state, and I'll have the hobby breeder. That way we'll have a secondary, because it's always better to have somebody that does this for a living. And I always look at that. You have somebody that does it for a living, don't have no other iron in the fire, somebody telling them, hey, you know, we might have to put a fence up, so let's not give Ken a permit. And remember, I already asked to have my money back on the maintenance permit breeder's license. I always asked. So I don't know what's up here. The only thing I was asking for was my variance and my maintenance permit waiver. That's what's that's what's here is the waiver. Do I get a waiver or not? What side's a waiver? And they're asking, you know, and they're saying, well, city staff has time. This is their job. This is their job. You know, since he failed to come and take a look, you know, I'm happy for him to come back and take a look at this. But by then, I'll have the vet prove it. I'll probably even have the state come in and prove it before he comes out. So, but we're allowed up to 19 dogs without having a Kansas permit. But I do have a vet from Arrowhead coming out this evening to okay for the health and safety of the dogs. Okay, thank you very much, and appreciate y'all.
We appreciate your time, Mr. Thomas. So the way this will work for those watching, we will make a motion to go into executive session. If that motion passes, we will go into executive session to deliberate and then come back, and possibly we have up to 30 days to make a decision on this, possibly make a actionable decision or not. Then we will get back to the order of our normal business at that time. So with that, I move that the City Council recess into executive session for 15 minutes for deliberation of evidence in a quasi-judicial hearing pursuant to KSA 75-4319 for legal consultation with the city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in an attorney-client relationship for legal advice. The executive session is required to protect the attorney-client privilege and the public interest. So that will begin at 11:25, and it will last for 15 minutes, and we will come back in here afterwards. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. Having received 7 votes, we will immediately go into the conference room and be in executive session. executive session, and we will continue with our meeting. The council has finished its deliberation, and based on the findings of the stated facts above, make a motion, or the majority of the council finds that the denial of the animal maintenance permit application and accompanying request for a variance of domestic animal maintenance permit requirement should be denied. And with that, we would make a motion to accept that recommendation, and that would be the motion. And then also we would add that ask that the clerk adopt the findings of the city as presented.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open a roll. Let's cast the vote. Having received 7 yea votes, that motion does pass. So with that, we're back on the agenda. Madam Clerk.
Council member appointments and comments.
Do council members have appointments at this time? With that, let's start with appointments if possible. Councilmember Blubob.
Thank you very much. I'd like to appoint Miranda Penner to the Affordable Housing Review Board, Cheryl Batt to the CSBG Review Committee, and Dalton Glasscock to the Billy McRae Naming Committee.
Councilmember Ballard.
I'd like to appoint Javen Gonzalez to my district advisory board, reappoint Jonathan Winkler to the library board, and reappoint Gavin Seiler to the police and fire retiree board.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I would like to appoint Takeda Harding to the Affordable Housing Review Board.
Are there further appointments at this time? If there's no further appointments, I'll make a motion to accept those appointments. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Vice Mayor Tuttle. Clerk will open a roll. I've received 7 yea votes. That motion does pass. Back on comments for the good of the body. Does any member have comments? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I don't know if I have to make a motion on this to clarify. I was looking at a document that had the 2021 council meetings on it earlier when I made the motion for the housing case to come back. The date is actually September 20th, not the 22nd. So do I need to make a motion to go back and redo that one, or is that okay to clarify in a minute?
We believe that it needs to be clarified for the record, so there is a date. I think it would be best to make a motion just to correct that date in your prior motion.
Do I have to read that whole 10 days?
Say council recommend, or the staff recommended action.
Okay.
Well, so yours is just a motion to defer. So
yeah.
You could just simply say motion to defer to September 20th instead of September 22nd.
And so with that, the motion to defer, please cite the item for the record, and also perhaps instruct staff to alert the individual of the change of date.
You're adding words, Mayor. Do I have to bring the item back up, or I can just make a motion?
I think you can just make that motion because it's been on. I think we can just do a friendly correction for the purpose of the minutes, just to say on agenda item 6-3, repair or removal of dangerous unsafe structures with regard to item E 2405 East Murdoch, that you would like to defer until September.
I will take legal staff's wording for the motion.
And just
go ahead.
I was just going to say a point of clarification, the 90-day deferral already passed. So I believe the motion is to clarify that 90 days will be, is determined on the date in which you're mentioning.
Yep, September 20th. That is my motion.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Clerk will open a roll. Having received 78 votes, that motion does pass. With that, we are back on announcements and comments for the good of the body. Vice Mayor Tuttle.
Thank you, and this isn't an announcement, but just a request. We used to have schedules of all of the meetings for the year up here, and mine, they're all gone. So maybe if that's something we could add, and that way this won't happen again. That'd be great. Thank you.
We provided it to all the other council members.
I had one and it's gone.
No, we don't do that. So apparently Councilmember Fry has taken yours, but it seems that he's willing to give it back. With that, Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Just wanted to highlight Juneteenth celebration this week over at McAdams. We'll have a parade on Saturday. Celebration is Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And everything can be found online, especially on Facebook, Juneteenth ICT.
Thank you for that. It's a reminder that we should also announce that on Monday, this upcoming Monday, the city of Wichita will be closed in observation of the holiday of Juneteenth. So I think the first time we're able to do that, and thus it's important that we get the word out for folks who might have business to do with the city next week. That Monday we will be closed in observation of the Juneteenth holiday. Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. In addition to the Juneteenth parade, I'd also like to remind our neighbors that this week kicks off the Wichita Open, which is a pretty cool event for our city, and it's going to be very hot, so if you go out there, please hydrate. But also recognize Mr. Roy Turner. He is retiring. This is his last year running the tournament. He's doing a tremendous job, so just want to highlight that.
If there's no further comments, then we do actually have an additional executive session that I will make the motion for. So I move that the City Council recess into executive session for 20 minutes to receive information on offers of settlement pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for legal consultation with the city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship for pending litigation, legal advice, and the executive session is required to protect attorney-client privilege and the public interest. So we will, if this motion passes, then we will be in executive session for 20 minutes in which we will meet back here to close out the meeting or to take further action. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Clerk will open a roll. I've received 78 votes. That motion does pass. We will be in executive session in the boardroom for 20 minutes.